Welcome to Modus Cafe. Join us for fun, lighthearted, and educational conversations around training, athletic longevity, and the human side of climbing, with your hosts, Mercedes Pallmeyer and Katja Dev. What's up, friends? Welcome to another episode. I'm Mercedes Pallmeyer, and today we're going to be talking about indoor climbing adventures, making the most out of your gym sessions during the winter time. So this episode is going to focus on some actionable tips that you can apply to make your winter training a little bit more fun, a little fresh, so that it doesn't feel like a grind when you're in the winter season and not able to get outside. And I know that for me, I actually really love winter training because it's a time I can focus really well on just a few things and see measurable progress. I often get really distracted going outside a lot, and going outside takes time. You know, the drive, I actually really hate driving to the crag every weekend and then trying to find a place to stay, whether that's camping or an Airbnb. It's also like fighting with traffic here in Seattle. So all of these things just take a lot more time when I'm focusing on sending every weekend during the season. So winter training just feels a lot more simple and more focused. So I actually really enjoy winter training. But I know that a lot of climbers that I talk to tend to have a harder time in the winter. One, because it does feel like a grind. Everything just feels a little heavier. And maybe that's because, it's not as bright outside. The days are shorter. You're not able to go outside and spend time with friends, family, or even climbing outdoors. So I think that the winter just generally physically feels heavier and can be like really difficult to motivate to get to the gym. So I hope that a lot of these tips can just make your sessions feel a little bit more fun. And what's really great is that if you focus on just a couple things in your sessions over the winter, you may actually find that you're going to be climbing a lot better and you'll see improvement for when the spring comes around. And if you're an outdoor climber, you'll be able to see those actually be applied to outdoor climbing. Or if you're still like a gym climber, your gym sessions are going to feel a little bit better, and you're able to see progress on your boulders or your rope climbs. All right, so let's dive in. And before I give you some of these tips, I just want to let you guys know, if you want something to focus on during the winter, I do have a special offer right now for our training membership, and that's 3 months for $97. You'll get our full membership benefits, and then after 3 months it's $67 after that each month, and you can cancel anytime. I'll leave the link for that below. Okay, so the first thing you want to do for your winter sessions is, if I were to ask you, what are your strengths and weaknesses? If you think about that question, it's going to be really easy to come up with a list of things. So I want you to jot down your strengths and weaknesses. Most likely, you're going to be able to write down a lot of your weaknesses, and that's totally fine. But I do challenge you to write down, what are you actually really good at when it comes to climbing? And you can actually double down on some of those strengths as well when you get into your sessions. And some categories to think about are, what skills are you really good at, and which skills do you find that you're having a hard time with? So think back to any kind of terrains or types of holds that you struggle with or that you're good at. Maybe it's like tactical things, like not being able to memorize the sequence, even if you've done the climb a couple times. So think about some of those things. Now, you can also think about strength. Skill and strength are highly related, but we're going to be talking more about strength, general strength in your body. So like, what is your push-ups like? Can you do 10 push-ups? Are you able to hold a plank for a minute? Can you do 5 to 10 hanging leg lifts? Are you able to do a body weight pull-up? Some of these things can be really good to focus on if you know you're lacking general strength, and you can really tackle that during the winter season. And then lastly, you can think about whether you are a projector. I know a lot of folks that I talk to tend to move on to a new climb pretty quickly and never really come back to an old project. So think about what your attitude is toward projecting. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And write some thoughts down about projecting. And I do recommend maybe choosing a couple projects over the winter, and try to figure out your tactics and your skill set needed for those projects. And you can kind of work on that in the winter. And it's a really great way to actually see progress, even though it's minuscule. in projecting, but even just a little bit closer to the next hold is progress. Sequencing and making maybe the easier parts of a project feel easier and more efficient, that's progress. So think about those projects and how you approach those and see if you can kind of tackle those during the winter season. Okay, so the first thing that I think is pretty fun is to create constraints in your gym session. And I really like playing games at the gym, especially if I'm with people. So one thing you could do is partner games. So go with a friend, go with a group of friends, and you can play a bunch of games that will actually teach you something about movement. So things like elimination. I know it's kind of like maybe seems really like beginner, but there's so many things that you will learn about your own movement, and you'll also unlock movement that maybe you've never really tried before when you play elimination. So elimination is really choosing a climb and just taking one hold off every round, and everyone tries that climb, and then the next person suggests which hold to eliminate, and then everyone tries that, so on and so forth. And this doesn't need to be competitive. This is really just for fun. Another game I really like is add-on, and add-on is a great drill to do on a spray wall for one, again, novel movements, things maybe you've never tried before, but it's also really great for memorization. So you have to remember the full sequence, like where are the holds, where are the footholds, where are the handholds, and especially on a spray wall, you're going to be really challenged during that time. So I love add-on. It's something, with a lot of our competitive kids, when I used to coach competition climbers, add-on was definitely a staple because it can hit a lot of different things. Some other like games that you could play are like competition style. So if you find something that like a run and jump that you and your friends tend to like avoid most of the time, you can all kind of suffer together and try some run and jumps. You could also try some dynos, like especially with the elimination game, you may end up dynoing, and setting up some intentional dynos that you can all work on is also super fun. And with all of these, especially when there's a movement component to it, you can have your friends take video of you and you can give each other feedback. The best part about climbing is the community aspect, and that there really isn't a lot of competition, because with climbing, you're not competing against someone. You're literally just competing against yourself, and challenging yourself on the wall. So use other people to help you understand your own movement and how you need to improve. I love this. All right. Some other ideas are some themed sessions. So I really like an anti-style day. So for me personally, I avoid slab most of the time. I don't have as much aspiration to send hard on slab. That means that's a key in something that I'm missing in my climbing. So I will try to have either a full session or I end my sessions with an anti-style. And you can do the same. Again, you can do this with friends. But when you are going to something that you constantly avoid, you're going to naturally build those skills, and you will see a huge change over the winter. If every week for the next 8 weeks that you're going to your anti-style, I promise you're going to see a really rapid change in your skill set there. And the last thing I really love is some circuit training. And there's kind of like some different categories of circuits. One is circuit climbing, where you can go in and choose a grade range. Let's say it's V2 to V4, and you try to climb every single one in the gym in that grade range. Or if you go to a gym that has more of a color circuit, you can just choose a color and try to do all of those in a session. You could also do this for harder climbing sessions. So a grade range of V5 to V7, and you say, okay, I'm going to try 7 of these climbs in that grade range, and I'm going to give myself only 2 attempts on each one. And that's a great way to also manage your volume and not try to do every single climb in the gym, because you need to rest when you're trying a lot harder. Another circuit training session that you could try, which is a really big highlight in my climbing training program, is basically strength climbing circuits. And this could be a combination of things. So you could do one climb in the regular like climbing gym, and then you can walk over to a training wall, do a climb on the training wall. You can maybe try some pull-ups, like wide pull-ups or chin-ups, and then you could put together, maybe finish that circuit with some push-ups. And that way you get a variety of things in one session,
and you just rotate through those maybe 3 or 4 times. So you would do a climb, another climb on a training board, pull-ups, some push-ups, and then you would repeat that. And you can put together any grouping of exercises, but I wouldn't do more than 5 exercises in a circuit. Otherwise, it's going to take too long, and it means you're not really focused in that session. So that's actually one of my favorite ways to train generally all year round, but especially in the winter. You can really like focus on the things that you need to. All right. So still working with strength. A lot of people want to work on finger strength. A lot of people think that finger strength is kind of like the ultimate goal, to have like the strongest fingers possible. And while that's true, I think technique really is, I think, the most important. And fingers kind of maybe come second, maybe third. In my list, I think flexibility is definitely high up there. But if you want to start working your finger strength and you've never done it, make sure that you've been climbing for, at least 6 to 12 months. And when you do hangboarding, you are not trying to go to failure. This is really important. I would say for any climber out there, whether you're a beginner or advanced, you want to keep it pretty chill. This is all about working specific hand positions, and being really safe with the protocols. So for a beginner, I like the half crimp position because it is halfway between an open and a full crimp, and it can develop a significant amount of power. Half crimp position on a large edge, that means 25 millimeters or over, and you do longer holds, so maybe 7 seconds or 15 seconds, anywhere in there, and you can do 3 to 4 sets or 3 to 4 hangs with about 2 to 3 minutes between each hang, and you can do 2 to 3 sets of those, and that's good enough. And just make sure that if you're going to be doing hangboard training, that you're decreasing the amount of climbing that you're doing. For an advanced climber, so someone who has been hangboarding, and you've been, you feel very confident on a hangboard, then you could experiment with mixed grip position. So this is doing full crimps. This could be doing pocket training or pinch training. And these positions need to be specific to one, like what you're weak in, or what do your projects ask for you to do? Like, where are you weakest in your projects? And you can work on those. And with advanced climbers, generally 3 to 5 sets. So you're going to go higher in volume. And then the amount of hangs is also maybe like 5 hangs per set. And I like the lower time holds, 5 to 7 seconds per hang. And you could do 10 seconds as well. Just keep it consistent, and you're going to be close to failure. You're still not going to failure, but you're a couple seconds away from that. A great resource is Eva Lopez. She has done so much research on specific hand positions and kind of like time to failure. So definitely check her stuff out. And then going into general strength. If you've been following me for a while, you should know that I love general strength, especially for aging athletes. This is really, really important to build as much muscle as we can, because we are also human. We're not just climbers. We are actually human beings, first and foremost, who are very active, who want to live a healthy lifestyle, want to, play with our family, our kids. And so having good muscle mass will allow us to have high quality of life for as long as possible. And this goes for folks in your 40s and 50s. If you have muscle mass, you're just going to feel so much better, and you have a much better metabolism. So things like working on antagonist movements for climbing, so anything pressing. I love sets to failure in a push-up. One, because it works your core strength, but of course you're working the antagonist muscles. And push-ups can generally be relatively safe as long as you're doing them with good technique. This is a really good time to also work on bench press technique, understanding what bench pressing is and how to do it really well. And then as you practice that through the winter, you'll be able to add to that through the rest of the year. Other things, I love deadlifting and any kind of core work like leg lifts, planks, leg extensions, things like that. So think about some of those things. You can maybe put 5 exercises together, do that 2 to 3 times a week, and try to stay consistent for 8 weeks. And then another really big focus is flexibility training. I feel like the winter is a wonderful time to work on flexibility. So if you aren't very good at getting your hips in like a frog position, double down on that. You can do that in a warm-up. You can do it as a cool down. You can do it on your rest days. And I like to pair this with horse stance and frog together, because the horse stance is more active and you can add weight to that. And then the frog is more of a passive position where you can relax and really try to get your hips close into the ground. So think about some flexibility that you can pepper in through the week, but try to just stick with a couple different positions and just keep hitting those. All right, so we're going to make this episode pretty quick here. So we're coming close to the end. And some quick tips about recovery. Make sure that you're not going to failure every session. We want your sessions to feel really good, really fresh, because again, in the winter, it is harder to recover because we're spending less time outside. So we're not getting as much vitamin D. Maybe we're not socializing as much, or just like things are a little different. Maybe there's more stress in your life, especially during the holidays. So just keep that into account. Leave a lot of energy in the tank at the end of your session and just trust that it's going to work. All right. Trust that your body is going to recover really well, and you're going to be able to show up to your next session feeling really, really good. And of course, every session, I want you to write this down, get a journal, make sure that you're putting everything down in a journal, and you're going to highlight your wins every session. What was one or two things that you did really, really well that session? And keep thinking about that, because that's how you're going to stay motivated for every session. All right, so some key takeaways for today's episode. This is your winter training gym checklist. So again, think about your strengths and weaknesses, get a journal and write those down. Just choose a handful of things. I would even say like 2 things that you want to focus on, and start incorporating those into your sessions. Then come up with a mini plan for you and your friends to play some games together, to come up with some drills, and put together some strength circuits that you could do that is going to feel really good for you. By the end of 8 weeks, okay, I've worked really hard in these 5 movements, and now I can see progress. And I know it's going to help you in your climbing, but also just in life as well. So I hope that you stay motivated this winter and that training doesn't feel like a grind. I want it to feel fun for you. And if you want to join us in our membership, we have 3 months for $97 right now for new members, and then $67 after that. And I also have 50% off all of my training programs, which is Pulling Strong, getting your first or your 10th pull-up, minimalist flexibility. Again, if you lack flexibility right now, winter is going to be the best time, and it's 50% off my minimalist flexibility program. And then Hanging Tough. So if you Hanging Tough is great as a prerequisite for hangboarding, getting your shoulders really strong in a hanging position. All of those are 50% off because it's my 5-year anniversary. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful winter season.